Reluctant Preppers provides educational awareness and commentary only. Opinions expressed do not constitute personalized financial advice. Viewers are encouraged to do their own research and seek qualified personal financial consultation before making investment decisions.
As a responsible person with growing concerns for your privacy and personal liberty, you want to know where we're headed and what you can do about it. We ask the experts what you need to do to take prudent and responsible action to safeguard your family's wealth and well-being, and what basic first steps will help you to be aware and prepared. ReluctantPreppers.com.
Welcome back, Reluctant Preppers. We have a first-time guest tonight. Lucas Birdsall is a strategic consultant to International Cannabis Corp. He's here with us on Reluctant Preppers to talk to us about some trends and future developments in the cannabis industry. Lucas, thanks for joining us here this first time on Reluctant Preppers.
Thanks for having me on. I appreciate your time.
We've had a number of guests in the past year and a half or so talking to us about cannabis and CBD, and sometimes it's about regulatory changes that are going to make big game changers for the industry. Sometimes it's about the medical benefits, and we'd like to talk to you about what you're seeing as you work with others in this industry on how the trend is changing. There's been political changes and certainly medical revelations and sentiment changes as well. So if we could start with what you're seeing as far as the promises of issues, perhaps medical conditions or concerns that people are dealing with that can be conceptually addressed and improved through use of cannabis products.
Yeah, it's a great question. So I guess I'd love to anchor my response with the fact that this is an industry in its infancy, whether it's CBD extraction, whether it's actually consuming a different type of CBD or THC-based products for health benefits. And regrettably, not at this time do we have the data repository necessary to come to definitive conclusions. I can tell you that International Cannabis Corp, we do operate in Europe. And Europe has adopted CBD, I'd say, 15 years before North America really did. And there's some people that stand by it, whether it's reduction in anxiety, whether it's anti-inflammation. There's some people that really can't live without it. I look forward to kind of observing the progress that we're really going to encounter over the next 5 to 10 years. You're seeing some big brands enter the space, whether it's Constellation Brands. They put $4 billion into Canopy Growth Corp. They're truly starting to realize that this is going to be of tremendous value to society, as well as their balance sheets. And at the end of the day, I mean, I wish I could give you some sort of definitive conclusion. Some people say it works miracles. Other people say they're unsure. I know there are some scientific baselines, but I'm definitely curious to continue to observe how the industry develops.
We interviewed a medical doctor, Dr. Ernie Murakami, who's at a major medical center in British Columbia, and he talked about the research that he and others are doing into the effectiveness of CBD against such diseases as chronic Lyme disease, which is highly prevalent in most areas of the United States and spreading, and it's been described as an epidemic. So in addition to some of the pain relief and anxiety and so on, applications, we're watching that especially closely because it just turns out that my wife and I are both chronic Lyme survivors, and we had an interesting phenomenon here. One of the doctors that we interview in the U.S., Dr. Jay Nielsen, who's a medical doctor and a former FDA researcher, alerted us to the fact that the Attorney General of the state of Ohio had sent a notice to all purveyors of CBD oil about a month ago saying that they're now going to have it registered and classified as the same kind of classification as they do as marijuana, and that it's going to mean that they have to be officially licensed for dealing with it, that sort of thing. We haven't seen any change in compliance, according to Dr. Nielsen, yet in the practices, but what are you seeing from a regulatory change standpoint, both in Canada and in the U.S., and what is the trend as far as the availability and accessibility of both CBD and THC products?
As both you and some of your viewers know, on October 17th, Canada celebrated federal legalization of recreational cannabis consumption and cultivation. Definitely a big milestone up here for both consumers as well as those who are actively participating in the cannabis industry. I think going forward, we're definitely going to see a recreational trend spread across the globe. Michigan, for example, they passed a measure legalizing recreational cannabis consumption and cultivation on November 6th. That was just after the U.S. midterms. And on a global scale, I mean, we're seeing some jurisdictions legalize whether it's medical or recreational daily. International Cannabis Corp, we're in Denmark. They have legalized medical cannabis. South Africa, about a month and a half ago, they legalized recreational cannabis for all South African citizens. I think that's definitely going to be an exciting marketplace. But truly, governments, consumers, I think that they're definitely coming to realize that there are some tremendous benefits, not only health benefits, but benefits that can help bolster tax revenues that are involved with the cannabis industry. And, you know, it is my view, it is my forecast, and within the next 2 to 5 years, the United States of America will become fully legalized on the recreational side. So I see it's a massive trend towards medical and then eventual recreational legalization.
What discussions have you been part of and the conclusions that you're reaching about the trends to the impact on society and families in general? There's been some concern, significant concern expressed by those who look at any intoxicating or potentially intoxicating substance or that can be mood altering, that sort of thing, as being something that is a potential risk to the stability of people focusing on their normal responsibilities of life, dealing with family situations, work situations, driving, that sort of thing. What are your conclusions of how cannabis and CBD, THC fit into a healthy society with healthy families, productive workers, that sort of thing?
You know, it's a very interesting question. You know what? At the end of the day, life is all about trade-offs. Now, up here in Canada, we're definitely still ironing out some of the wrinkles, and those wrinkles are pertaining to operating a motor vehicle or working after you've consumed cannabis or other psychoactive substances. I guess the best answer is I'm unsure. You know what? I mean, alcohol has been prevalent in our societies for hundreds of years.
That's right.
And if you go to different parts of the globe, you know, cannabis has been a very prevalent part of their society for numerous centuries. Mexico, for example, et cetera. You know what? I'm unsure. And one of the most exciting things about cannabis and the cannabis industry is the fact that it is in its infancy. You know what? We're going to continue to learn. We're going to continue to develop research and data sets that are going to allow us to draw these conclusions. But at this time, I mean, I live by the mandate, you know, everything in moderation. I feel that that's quite accurate when relating to cannabis consumption. And, you know, on the whole mood altering side, I mean, everybody's different. I'm unsure how, you know, subject A's system responds to THC versus subject B. But it is a very interesting question. And you know, I'm going to continue to do some research and see how it evolves.
One of the counter positions that has been brought forth when we've asked that question before is that if you look at what the U.S. is in the middle of, it's almost undeniable. We're in the middle of an opioid crisis where prescription drug overuse is causing serious impacts on people's health and lives and work and everything. And they're talking about, in many cases, cannabis being a potentially much lower side effect, more natural alternative to some of these more serious addictive substances that are used initially for legitimate purposes and sometimes can become too habit forming to where they end up not being able to fulfill their original purpose medically anymore. So that's another thing we're trying to keep an eye on as well here. Another interest that our viewers tend to have is the idea of self-sufficiency and being able to access things that are more naturally based, maybe not so dependent necessarily on long supply chains, that sort of thing. So that's another area of interest. And I guess if you could talk to us about International Cannabis Corp and you're a consultant to them. What do you understand of their mission, their vision, and what are they trying to bring to this industry?
Absolutely. International Cannabis Corp, their mission, their vision is to become the world's first fully vertically integrated pure cannabis play. What does that mean? They're looking to penetrate every link of the cannabis value chain, whether that's providing fertilizer, whether that's supplying hydroponics, whether that's actually cultivating cannabis or industrial hemp, and ultimately the end of that is distributing those products to the end consumer. Now, ICC International Cannabis Corp, they hold a portfolio of assets. We currently have cultivation licenses in 5 different countries, and that's across 3 different continents. We have a pretty wide distribution footprint, over 35,000 different pharmacies in Europe, as well as 2,800 different corporate and independent pharmacies in South Africa. But at the end of the day, the theme that your viewers or yourself could take from this interview is cannabis is moving into the international realm. It is, again, an infancy, an industry truly in its infancy. And one of the things that it's very comparable to is the gold rush of the late 1800s. You had folks going to California, clambering up to the Klondike with the hopes of finding a gold nugget and striking it rich. Well, this truly is the green rush, and we're committed to going out to evaluating the best international assets available and planting the ICC flag in as many jurisdictions as humanly possible. We're going to continue to buy and build over the next 12 months. We're going to start to operate probably in the next 6 or 8 quarters. But the true undervalued assets right now are in the international realm, and it's our mandate to execute upon them.
You mentioned briefly at the beginning of this response a number of different sort of product-focused approaches. What are the product types that International Cannabis Corp is considering, and what's your go-to-market strategy for those?
Absolutely. So, obviously we are focused on cultivating and harvesting cannabis flower. A bunch of different varieties, whether they're sativa or indica dominant. Those will be prepackaged. They will have their own brands, which will all be owned in-house by International Cannabis Corp. On the CBD side, it will be more of a white-labeled focus. So we've partnered with some folks who have some very proprietary extraction technologies. And once we finish completing our inaugural industrial hemp harvest, we're going to work with them to ensure that we're extracting 99.9 CBD extract. Our Polish asset, we have over 6,800 hectares in Poland of industrial hemp. We have an offtake agreement for over 100 kilos a month of CBD isolate, 99.9%. And again, we're trying to leverage the vertically integrated aspect. We're going to go to market with those in Europe as well as South Africa. But again, we're really in the buy and build strategy right now. We're going to have some very exciting management additions in the next couple of quarters, individuals who have made multiple exits, successful exits from the Canadian cannabis industry. But yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, I was really making sure we clarify for viewers. So your white-labeled CBD production means that you'll be able to provide that to companies that want to do their own branding and their own mixtures or whatever that they want to do. You'd be providing them as a raw material to them at the wholesale level?
That is correct, yes, sir.
Okay, yeah. My wife and I, again, after the conversations with Dr. Ernie Murakami, have actually obtained some CBD and started using it for ourselves for our own treatment of Lyme, and have been getting a lot of feedback from other viewers who are aware or have been using that before, that it does hold quite a bit of promise and at lower risk and more naturally sourced. So we're quite interested in that. You mentioned some of your international operations. Can you talk to us a little bit about your operations in Denmark? It sounds like that's been going on for some time and getting fairly well established.
Denmark is definitely one of our flagship assets. Within Denmark, International Cannabis Corp holds one of 12 federally granted cannabis cultivation, storage, and manufacturing licenses. Now, our entry into Denmark, it joins some of our industry peers, such as Aurora, such as Canopy, such as the Supreme Cannabis Company, in holding these licenses. Now, I can tell you it was quite a difficult license to apply for, and it was a great achievement when we were awarded one. So we've acquired a 55-acre plot in a northern Danish town, and we're working right now. We've just broken ground on a 473,000 square foot cannabis cultivation facility. Denmark we view as the northern European engine that's going to help fuel some of our CBD and cannabis flower demands. And yeah, it's a flagship asset. If you look at some of our peers in that realm, we're in good company, I can tell you that much.
We've spoken with some entrants into the market in the past who are keenly focused on patenting and isolating and protecting the genome of a specific and developing specific custom strains and that sort of thing. Are you going more for, because you talked about a 55-acre plot, it sounds like open air agriculture there. Are you going for a more natural approach there, or are you also interested in developing sort of custom or genetically designer strains of the products that you're developing?
So, I mean, to clarify, Denmark, it's not a climate that's super conducive to outdoor cannabis cultivation. So those 55 hectares, they're earmarked and they've been purchased by us with the hopes of expansion. So we're going to start with a 473,000 square foot facility. It's going to be located in the middle of what we're calling our cannabis park. Eventually, we're hopeful to bring in some, industry-leading geneticists, master growers, anyone who is really involved in the cannabis industry and they're true cannabis professionals, so they can collaborate and work on revolutionary ideas together. Breeding and developing different strains. They're definitely a very intriguing part of the cannabis industry. You can tweak a certain strain to fight a certain ailment, whether it's stress or anxiety, whether it's inflammation. And I do see that being a very big part of the industry. Not at this juncture, but we are in talks with some of those geneticists.
What are some of, you mentioned that maybe come in your future, can you talk to us, give us a kind of a storyline of what you see ahead, maybe 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, a year, and beyond? What major milestones should people watch for if they're interested in following your progress?
To continue with the ICC staking rush theme, you're going to see us enter 5 to 10 more jurisdictions, whether it's Uruguay. Uruguay was the first country on the planet to actually legalize recreational cannabis. That was a few years past. You're going to see us look to enter Portugal. There's quite a few countries in Africa which have expressed interest in working with cannabis companies to build facilities, whether it's to provide jobs, whether it's to actually bolster tax revenues. You're going to see us continue to penetrate Europe. There's a couple very, very interesting Eastern European countries. They're located near Greece, to give everybody a clue. And South America. We see South America being very attractive. 2 weeks ago, I was in Lima, Peru. We were looking at some supply chain assets down there. But you're going to see us continue to build a robust portfolio of cannabis-centric assets. And then going forward, management changes. You're going to see some big box names come on board. And then we're going to operate and ultimately, bring this all to market.
I forgot to ask you in the beginning, and I should have, as far as how did you get involved in this industry, and particularly as a strategic advisor to a company like International Cannabis Corp?
That's a great question. I appreciate you asking. I'm a capital markets professional, so I help companies raise money as well as provide advisory, consultant services, writing business plans, liaising with local counsel, fostering, developing regional relationships. I'm on a plane quite often. We're always in search of the next great cannabis asset. And you know what? How did I get involved in the cannabis world? It was through one of my friends. He got a job as an investor relations consultant with one of the first Canadian LPs. And I just kind of learned. And next thing you know, I'm involved with ICC International Cannabis here. So it's, it's a journey. Some people say life is a journey. I really believe that the journey is life. So definitely exciting industry to be in at this time, though.
You mentioned so many different continents and countries and jurisdictions. I have to ask, is there an international language that the business transactions of the cannabis industry tend to be leaning towards? Is it English, French, Spanish, or is it just wherever your jurisdiction is? What language is the business of cannabis internationally done in?
Well, I mean, right now it's done in cash flow. Cash is king, but you know what? When we enter some of these regions, you need to work with local counsel. We work very closely with an Israeli consulting group. They're by the name of Sababa Sciences. The Israelis have been so advanced in CBD research, et cetera, for quite some time now. They help us with our blueprints, but you know what? When you're entering an unfamiliar jurisdiction, rule number one is to identify local counsel who does speak English and can really help you navigate the political waters there. Regrettably, at this time, the cannabis industry still is slightly politicized. In some jurisdictions, it's all about who you know, not exactly what you can do for the country. And I guess it is subjective. I mean, it's all about kind of entering, assessing your operating environment, and then putting together a roadmap which will allow the company to be successful.
If people want to find out more about the company and its plans and watch this unfold, where can they get more information?
So I would encourage everyone to visit our website. It's intlcannabiscorp.com. Please take a look through our holdings. Please read our press releases. You can really observe the evolution of the company over the last 6 and 8 months. We are publicly traded, so we trade up here in Canada on the Canadian Securities Exchange under the symbol WRLD, as in world. We also trade down south on the OTC markets. Our symbol is KNHBF. And to cap off the tri-listing, we also have exposure in Germany. This is a very exciting story. I'm not sure how many of your viewers are, stock market enthusiasts, but if you're looking to garner international exposure to a very exciting and dynamic cannabis play, this is a great opportunity. But please conduct your due diligence. And I look forward to seeing what we can do in the future. And I really do thank you for your time.
Well, we've been speaking with Lucas Birdsall. He's a strategic advisor to International Cannabis Corp. We've been talking about the mega trends affecting the cannabis and CBD industry here on Reluctant Preppers. Lucas, thanks for joining us.
Thanks again. I appreciate it.